In this video, we're going to answer the question, do you still owe the debt if it falls outside the statute of limitations? So stay tuned, bankruptcy bailout buddies. Welcome, debtors and borrowers, to Bankruptcy Bailout, because debt ruins lives, not bankruptcy. My name is Matt Burkus, Colorado bankruptcy and debt relief attorney. And today we're going to address the question of what is the statute of limitations, and if your debt reaches the statute of limitations, do you still owe it? So if you've been in debt for a while now, we're talking years, you've probably come across the term statute of limitations. You are now what I call a professional debtor, okay? Someone who's been in debt a long time and is trying to figure out ways to, for whatever reason, not file bankruptcy, which I don't understand, and we'll talk about that at the end. However, you've probably come across the term statute of limitations, and there's some misconceptions about what that is, so let's get into it. Statute of limitations is, in most states, is an affirmative defense against a lawsuit, and that's all it is a defense against a lawsuit. And the defense is that after a certain number of years, the law says, the claimant, the debt collector, can't sue you at that point. They can't wait too long to sue you. In Colorado, where I practice, the statute of limitations to collect a debt is 6 years. So they have 6 years to sue you. There's only 3 states that treat the statute of limitations differently, and they're Mississippi, Wisconsin, and North Carolina. In those states, when the statute of limitations expire, the debt is extinguished as well. It's discharged. But only in those 3 states. In every other state, the statute of limitations is basically, or is only, an affirmative defense to a lawsuit. So it's not a status, it's not something that you can prospectively apply to your situation. So even if the statute of limitations has expired, what we call a time-barred debt, they've reached time-barred debt. So if you have a time-barred debt, the debt collector can still call you and ask for money, and can still send you letters demanding payment. Okay, when a debt becomes time-barred, that does not prevent collection. Now, as a practical matter, if a debt is time-barred, the debt collector is more likely to violate the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Because under that act, a debt collector can't misrepresent the status of the debt and can't use false and misleading claims to try to motivate payment. And so if the debt is time-barred, they can't threaten to sue you or threaten to garnish wages, and if they do so, they're violating the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. However, that's of little comfort, really, because you still have to sue them under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, get your little $100 to $1,000 award, and guess what? You still owe the debt. So, it's a mixed blessing. But in any event, so the statute of limitations only allows you to defend yourself if you get sued. So if you do get sued and the debt is time-barred, well, you file a response saying, hey, this debt is time-barred, here's the statute of limitations, this is expired, here's why, and so forth. And you get the case dismissed in your favor. Right, so that's how the statute of limitations work. Now, one of the main questions that always gets asked when we talk about statute of limitations is, well, when does it start? When does that clock start ticking? Well, the clock starts ticking the moment the creditor or the debt collector has the right to sue you. So it doesn't start ticking from when you took out the loan or anything like that. It starts ticking after you miss your first payment on that debt, right? And actually, technically, it's when the payment due date of the next payment, the payment you actually miss or don't make. Right? So that's when the clock starts ticking. Now, as far as the next question is, well, can you reset the statute of limitations? And the answer is yes. And really, yes. And really the only way to do that is to make a payment. And even in some states, that's not enough. Right? So if you make a token payment to a debt, that may reset the statute of limitations. However, we're getting into the technical aspects of that. But again, the statute of limitations clock starts ticking when you go into default on the debt. And then it's only a defense to a lawsuit. So even if the statute of limitations expires, the debt collector can still call you, can still send you letters and demand payment. And then if they do anything misleading, you may have a claim under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act against them, but that still doesn't extinguish the debt. So in parting here, maybe it's time to have a little bit of perspective, because if you're getting to the point where you have debts approaching the statute of limitations, that means things have gone off the rails or been off the rails for quite a while. And I think it's always better to be proactive in solving the actual problem. So the problem isn't the statute of limitations. The problem is you owe money that you were either unable or unwilling to pay. That's the problem that needs to be addressed. The debt is what needs to be addressed. So most people who go down this path eventually end up filing bankruptcy. And the number one thing I hear from them after the fact is, I wish, or they say, I wish I would have filed bankruptcy sooner. Because there's really nothing to be afraid of when you unload your debt in bankruptcy. But there you have it. Brief explanation of the statute of limitations. My name is Matt Burkus, Colorado Bankruptcy and Debt Relief Attorney. I offer free initial phone consultations to residents of Colorado for the purposes of bankruptcy. We look forward to working with you, and best of luck.